Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's North Carolina Botanical Garden virtual Lunchbox talk. We're excited to bring you Dr. Tracie Locklear, and she'll be talking on this wonderful topic about elderberries. I am Joanna Lalikas, the Director of Education at the Botanical Garden. We're grateful to have you here with us. We would like to thank our Spring 2021 Lunchbox Talk event hosts, Sims Preston and Olympia Stone, for supporting our Spring Lunchbox Talk series at the Dogwood level. This is the last in the series today. We've been grateful for the support. Our Lunchbox Talk event hosts provide funds that support program planning for reaching a broad and diverse audience, including support for captioning recorded talks that are made available to the public. We're ready to move forward and present to you Dr. Tracie Locklear. She is a research assistant professor at North Carolina Central University in the Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences. She's a translational scientist and experienced clinical researcher with a PhD in pharmacognosy and a strong background in women's health research. Her research interests involve the evaluation of the role of plant nutrients in human health and wellness, and she works closely with communities interested in the reestablishment of healthy food traditions that support healthy living and food security in rural communities without access to fresh produce. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Locklear. I will hand it off to you now.
Oh, thank you so much, Joanna. I really appreciate it. Hi, everyone. I'm so just happy to be here with you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here with us. And I apologize in advance for the topic change, but elderberries are in season right now. The flowers are out, they're beautiful. And this is just such a perfect time and a great plant to discuss today. And I hope you don't mind, but it's one of my favorite plants. And I'm really looking forward to being able to sharing a little bit of information about elderberry with you. Let me close out some of these. All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen. Today, as I said, we're going to be talking about elderberry, particularly black elderberry. It is flowering right now, so if you guys are out and you're on the roads and you're out in the rural communities, or even here in the Triangle area, you're out on your bicycle, you might see some big, like really large flower heads with like what looks like hundreds of little flowers on them. Those are most likely elderberry. So today we're going to be talking about those and give you an opportunity to practice identification. I'll tell you a little bit about traditional uses. I am part of I'm actually the co-director for our North Carolina Native American Ethnobotany program. I'll tell you a little bit about that as well. And I will not leave here without sharing a medicinal syrup recipe with you. So again, I'm so thankful that you joined, and let's get started. Okay, so before we talk about elderberry, I do want to just plug my community real quick because they have just been wonderful. The Native American Ethnobotany Project. Our goal is about maintaining strong and resilient Native American communities through knowledge and environmental stewardship. And what we do is we work within the community to reintroduce really and revitalize our tribal relationships with medicinal plants, particularly our wild native relatives. And we do this we collect plant stories with tribal elders and others in the community. And we document and disseminate this collective knowledge with other tribal members, with the youth, with our non-native community members like you guys. And it just helps us to build stronger relationships with the natural world and with each other. So it's something that we can share and we can talk about together. And it also helps us enrich our tribal communities. We also help our communities with their medicinal gardens and their food gardens. So in addition to planting things like sorghum and corn and peas and beans and sweet potatoes, our tribal communities also plant things like elderberry and sweetgrass and a lot of other medicinal helpful plants that can be utilized for home remedies or even for food. So we are happy to be participating in that with our communities. Okay, so first things first, I want to share with you an elderberry identification video. I promise it'll be quick, and you probably already have seen this plant in the wild, but just in case you haven't and you're really curious, I really want to share it with you, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of the medicinal uses. So if David, if you don't mind, if you would play the video for me.
Hey everybody, Tracie Locklear here with the North Carolina Native American Ethnobotany Project, and I'm out here in the August summer heat to talk a little bit about elderberry. So I've been getting a lot of questions about how to identify elderberry. So elderberry is part of the plant family Doxaceae. And not only is this plant part of North America, it's native in Europe, it's native in parts of Asia, as well as parts of Africa. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how to identify elderberry if you're out on a nature walk. Here I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina actually, and as you can see around me we have a little bit of a stream. We're in the middle of the city, so you probably hear some cars behind me. But even here, even in the middle of the city, you can still find these little patches of nature around you. And here I was able to find a little patch of elderberry. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how, when you're out in nature, how to identify this beautiful plant. So the one thing I want to say about this plant is if you look at the base of it, you will see that the bark is gray and it is smooth. But once you get closer to it, you can see it has these little bumps to it. They're called lenticels, all right? And so that's one way that you can identify elderberry. The other is that the leaves are opposite each other. So here's one leaf, here's a tiny one here, and then here's the other one. And if you can see on the stem of the branch, it is directly opposite each other. And they are pinnately compound leaves. And what do I mean when I say pinnately compound? So normally when you see oak trees or maple trees, you see one full broad leaf. And this, and for the elderberry, this is the full leaf. And so when I say pinnately compound, I mean that it has leaflets, small little leaves. So here you have the full leaf. So you have the petiole here, which is the part that attaches to the twig. And then you have the leaf blade. In this case, the leaf blade has tiny little leaflets, and you can see these side leaflets, all right? And then a leaflet at the top. So you have 6 side leaflets and a leaflet here at the top. And this is what we mean by pinnately compound leaf, okay? And if you notice, these little leaflets are also opposite each other, just like the leaves of the elderberry. And it's a little bit lighter green on the back side and darker green on the front side. This being August, normally elderberry is in season. You will see these beautiful, ripe, dark berries. But in this case, these berries have not ripened, and not only have they not ripened, but they have been picked clean by the birds. So this is the inflorescence of elderberry. This is where between April and June, mid-spring, you would find the most beautiful ivory colored small flowers. These little green unripened berries kind of fall in like an umbel, and what this is called a cyme, okay? Because these flowers can be like 10 to 12 inches across in diameter, and they're really lacy and white. They have 5 petals and 5 stamens. So on this branch, I was able to find some berries that are starting to ripen. So it's still not covered, by the way, so some of the berries have fallen off or been eaten by the birds, not sure which, but as you can see, you see some green berries and some berries that are starting to ripen. So they're red right now, but by early September, these berries will be black. And so generally, this entire inflorescence will be covered by black, beautiful berries. So places that you would want to look for elderberry includes open, sunny areas that are close to water. So it loves moist, rich soil. You would find it growing in riverbanks, near lakes and ponds, also in the ditches next to farmland. Those are really great places to source out elderberry. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you next time.
Okay, so you probably figured out by now that video was shot last August 2020. And at that time, I'm guessing we didn't have a very good year for elderberries because those did not look great. But this year is shaping up to be a really good year. And I took some additional video. And so I found a really good patch, and I'm going to update my video so that this year, hopefully we have some big, black, really nice elderberries to share. So that's a little bit about how to identify elderberry. And now I want to talk about what is it used for? Like, now that we know that it grows here, it's native to the United States, it's native to Europe. You see it a lot in Europe, Asia, even parts of Africa. What has it traditionally been used for? So let's talk a little bit about that now. Okay. Oh, well, before I say anything else, I always put this slide in here to remind me to mention to my audience that before you go out and you start collecting elderberry or what you think is elderberry, to please be 110% certain, because there are some other plants, such as water hemlock, that are deadly when you take them and you ingest them. So it's very super important that you know what you are looking at and that you have a clear identification of elderberry. The other thing to mention is that, you know, tribal communities, we really believe in paying respects. So if you see a single patch of something, if you see one single plant, it's not something that you would want to collect. Make sure you are collecting respectfully and that you're leaving enough material, enough plant behind, and that you're harvesting in clean areas. So if you were harvesting for your medicinal use or ingestion, you definitely don't want to be doing that by a roadside. Obviously, there's a lot of harmful toxins, chemicals, and metals that are put off by exhaust fumes. So you don't want to be collecting in unclean areas. And I would suggest this, though, is that harvest, maybe this time of year or early in the fall, take some time to propagate. And elderberry is a really excellent propagator. So all you have to do is, you know, cut a couple, 6-inch pieces and put it in some dirt, and it will do the rest of the work for you. It really loves to grow. It loves moist soil. So you really don't have to do much to it. Once you put it in some soil, just let it grow some roots over a couple of weeks, and it'll start putting off flowers again, putting off leaves again, and then you can just take it out of your pot and put it in your garden in a really fertile, wet area with a lot of sun, and just watch it really transform your landscape. It is a really beautiful plant to have just in your garden. So I want to talk a little bit about how we use elderberry here in the United States, among Native American tribes here in North Carolina, as well as across the country. So starting from the top, I want to talk about the flowers. The flowers are probably the most easily recognizable part of elderberry. They are out right now in May, June, and they've been used traditionally by the Lumbee as well as the the Cherokee, to lower fevers and induce sweating. So tea from the flowers have been used for this purpose. Also, it is an anti-inflammatory, and this has been demonstrated in the scientific literature, and it has been used to stimulate the circulatory system, but it's also been used by the Lumbee for skin washes and for skin irritation. So the tea is used as a wash, but it's also taken as a laxative and a diuretic. If you're familiar with elderberry, you know it's popular tea for colds and flus throughout the United States by herbalists, but it's also a really good pollinator. So if you add this plant to your landscape, it's a really great pollinator plant for your garden. In addition, you can use it in lemonades, and my favorite herbalist, who's a very popular herbalist, Rosemary Gladstar, has even written about how you can deep fry the flowers and make fritters out of them, and kind of like use like an elderberry jam and just make a little delicacy out of the flowers, and they're delicious, according to her. I haven't tried it. I don't really deep fry a lot of things, but it's definitely on my to-do list. this year is to try some deep fried elderberry flowers. So I want to talk now about the berries. So elderberry does contain cyanogenic glycosides, and these are mostly in the berries, the leaves, the stem, and the roots. Once you cook the berries, you break down these compounds, but when in the raw form, they can cause nausea and vomiting. And if you ingest too much of this, it can cause really severe reactions. So this is definitely one of those plants that you really have to be careful with. So for the berries, you would never want to consume raw berries. But once you cook them, they have been used for colds, flus, and respiratory conditions, generally in the United States by herbalists, but also by our tribes here in North Carolina, particularly the Waccamaw, the Waccamaw Siouan, the Halawasaponi, the Kahari, the Lumbee, and also the Cherokee, as well as other Native nations across the country. The tea has been used to treat headaches and inflammations. Obviously, our communities, as well as just our nation in general, has a fascination with elderberry syrup. You'll see it on the shelves in all of our grocery stores. It's really easy to find, but particularly it should be noted that you can make pies, jams, jellies, and even a really tasty wine with elderberries. It's an awesome superfood. It's high in iron, potassium, vitamin C, anthocyanins, and antioxidants, as well as bioflavonoids. Now, these are really good for like your eyes and your cardiovascular system, and making sure, you know, you get rid of those free radicals. So it's a really good plant, really good superfood plant, and as well as being an immunomodulator. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on. An immunomodulator meaning that it helps to keep your immune system up and functioning. So the roots and the bark and the leaves have also been used traditionally by Native American communities across the country, particularly the Cherokee, the Huma, the Lumbee, and other tribes. And the roots, the bark, and the leaves contain the highest amount of those cyanogenic glycosides. And so these parts, the roots, the stem, and the leaves, are traditionally used by healers only. They're not really for the typical person for self-help because of the high concentrations of the cyanogenic glycosides. And so the roots have been used to stimulate the circulatory system as a tea by the Cherokee as well as the Lumbee. And the bark has been used as a purgative to treat swelling and internal pain by both the Cherokee, the Eastern Band Cherokee, and the Huma down in Louisiana. And the leaves, like, you know, a lot of native plants, it has been used to treat swelling as well as to treat skin issues like hives, burns, and even mosquito bites. Taking the leaves and making a poultice out of it, or using the tea for a wash, has been used to mitigate the swelling and help with the pain and the redness from hives and burns. Okay, so now we know a little bit about how elderberry has been used traditionally by our Native American tribes, both here in North Carolina, as well as other parts of the country. I want to share with you my own personal recipe for making elderberry syrup. And so this is something that you can make at home. It's really easy. And I just want to share with you just a brief video. So David, if you don't mind, one more time.
Hey everybody, Tracie Locklear here from the North Carolina Native American Ethnobotany Project, and today we're going to be talking about making elderberry syrup. Now, elderberries are good all year long to help you boost your immune system, and I want to show you how you can easily make elderberry syrup at home. What we have here are black European dried elderberries that you can find at your local natural health food store, dried elder flowers, also from your natural health food store, ginger root, which I already have some peeled, you can find at your local grocery store. And this is going to give your syrup a little bit of a warm flavor, as well as it's also anti-inflammatory. We have some local honey, which I always believe in buying local, and honey is going to give your syrup a really good taste and help it go down better. This recipe calls for 1/4 teaspoon of cloves. And cloves are very warming and will give your elderberry syrup a little spice. And finally, we have just a little bit of bourbon that we're going to be using to preserve your syrup and give it a longer shelf life. So I have modified Rosemary Gladstar's elderberry syrup recipe from her book, Medicinal Herbs. And we're going to be combining 2 cups of dried elderberries to 4 cups of water, and we're going to put those in the pot and put it on a low boil. And we're going to set this on a low boil for about 20 minutes. So now we are going to grate our peeled ginger root. And we need about a tablespoon of grated ginger root for this recipe. Okay. Looks like what we have may be good enough. And we're going to measure out how much we need of the grated ginger root. We need 1 tablespoon. So we're just going to scoop this up in here and pack it down. Make sure we have a tablespoon. And as soon as our elderberries finish boiling, we're going to strain them off and add our ginger root. Okay, looks like our elderberries have boiled. All right. They smell so good. All right, so now we are going to strain off the elderberries and add the ginger root to our syrup. So this is a tight woven piece of cotton that we're going to use to strain our elderberries. So now I've strained my elderberries, but you don't have to throw these away. You can always use them for making pancakes or muffins later. You can even roll them out and bake them, maybe make them into like a fruit roll-up or whatever you like. So we're going to squeeze this out. Make sure we get all the liquid out of it. Okay. Now we're going to add this back into our pot to finish boiling with the ginger root and the cloves. Now we're going to add our 1 tablespoon of ginger. And we're going to add our 4th teaspoon of cloves. And we're gonna add our lid back on and let this boil for about 20 minutes to boil down the liquid tab to about half. Okay, so now we're gonna do a little something different. And we're gonna take the elderberries from before. You don't have to do this step unless you're using the alcohol, because while we're waiting for our elderberry syrup to boil down to 2 cups, we're going to add our 1 cup of bourbon to our elderberries. And the reason I like to do it this way is that this way we can get the most nutrients out of the berries themselves. So while we're waiting for our elderberry syrup to reduce down to 2 cups, we're going to infuse our elderberries. So now that we've infused these elderberries with our bourbon, we're going to strain these elderberries again and add the infused liquid back into our pot. Okay? And this is going to give us a nice little additional flavor of the bourbon. It's going to help us preserve our medicine, and it is also going to draw out any additional nutrients. So we have one more infusion step before we strain the elderberry syrup and add our honey, and it's going to be adding the elderberry flower. So while the syrup is still hot, we've already added the bourbon. We're going to add the elderberry flowers. Okay, I have 1/8 cup of elderberry flowers. We're going to mix that together. Rinse this spoon off. We're going to mix these in, and we're just going to let them infuse for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to strain our syrup and add our honey. So now we've let the elder flowers infuse in the syrup for about 20 minutes. And we're going to go ahead and strain those into our measuring cup. Okay, so now let me clean this area up a little bit so you can see what we're doing here. Now we're getting ready to add our honey. So now we have our honey. We have 1 cup of honey, as you can see. We started out with 4 cups of water. We're down to 3 cups now that we added the 1 cup of bourbon, and we're going to replace up to the 4th cup line with 1 cup of honey. Alright, we're going to mix this for a minute, and then we're going to pour it into our jars. Okay, so now it looks like this is about ready, and we're going to put it into our jars. And there you have it, elderberry syrup.
Okay, so that's a little bit about how to make elderberry syrup. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. And here I have shared the recipe with you if you guys want to try this at home. It takes about 45 minutes or so once you've got all your ingredients together and measured out. It takes about 45 minutes to make if you make it with the bourbon in the way that I demonstrated in the video. However, if you are not bourbon, you don't really like alcohol and you want to make something that's probably more family friendly, my really good friend Ricky Bratz, who is an herbalist, really talented herbalist, and the owner of Kazimi Healing in Carborough, in the area. So she has a really great recipe that's really simple and easy to make. It's something that you can do with your kids. It's something that you can do during Christmas time, during flu season, make it and share it with your family and friends. And it is delicious. It will be a favorite. I promise once you make it the first time, you'll make it every year. But here I have shared this with Joanna and David in these slides. So hopefully you guys will get a copy of this, and please feel free to make it and stay in touch with me and tell me how you like it, how it turned out for you. I want to close by talking a little bit about COVID-19, not very much. I don't want to link the elderberry and COVID-19 to the COVID-19 virus by any means. However, I do want to state that I get asked all the time that because elderberry, black elderberry specifically, has been used for colds and flus, would it be good against the coronavirus, the COVID-19 virus? And I want to just say that elderberry has not been tested against any strains of the COVID-19 virus, and therefore we have no data, no evidence to suggest that it would be helpful in mitigating any symptoms related to COVID-19. And in addition, no herbs actually have been shown to be preventative, curative, or even to treat this particular virus. It's very important to seek help from a medical professional. There have been several human trials that have been done on elderberry that have demonstrated that it is good for shortening your healing time from flus and from colds, the shortest healing time being about 4 days for influenza. So it has been demonstrated to work, a meta-analysis. So scientific studies have shown that it can shorten your healing time from a cold or flu. However, that does not extend to the coronavirus. So I will not suggest that you take that as a measure to treat the coronavirus. And some professionals have suggested that because elderberry is an immunomodulator, and we talked about this earlier, because it stimulates the immune system and it helps to create or induce the production of cytokines. Cytokines are these chemicals that are signaling chemicals within your immune system. Because it helps to do that, what it could result in is what has been referred to as a cytokine storm. And we've seen cytokine storms with certain medications, and it's something that has happened a lot with the COVID-19 virus. It's basically when your immune system kind of goes into overdrive, and it causes all of these unexpected issues, such as building up fluid and things in the lungs. And so some individuals have been concerned that because elderberry is an immunomodulator, that it could result in the occurrence of a cytokine storm, and there is absolutely no evidence to suggest that. So I will put that out there as well. Elderberry has been shown in scientific studies to induce cytokine production in a healthy way, but has never been shown to induce the extrapolation of a cytokine storm. So we have no evidence to suggest that it would do such a thing. On that, I just want to say that it is a great plant for your landscape. Again, it is a great plant for treating colds and flus. You can find it in berry form. You can have it pies, jellies, jams, wine, syrups. My favorite is the syrup. I make it every year. It is something that our tribes do a lot. The Halawasaponi, particularly the Koheri, and the Wakamasuan. Like this is something that our tribes have started doing over the past, I would say about 3 or 4 years, is like really getting together and making syrup. So it's kind of, it's fun to do. And I want to close by taking a moment to thank my co-director for the NC Native American Ethnobotany program, Dr. Jillian De Giselle. She is a teaching assistant professor over at North Carolina State University, NC State. And she's been wonderful. She is an ethnobotanist as well. And she's been wonderful support for this program. And I also want to thank my friends, Mr. Greg Jacobs, Miss Randy Bird, Mr. Archie Lynch, Miss Darlene Graham, Dr. Linwood Watson, Dr. Nancy Turner. These individuals have just been so supportive, and they have shared their knowledge with me and the rest of the community to just be able to bring this work to you guys. And I want to thank the participating tribes and the tribal elders from the Wakamasuan tribe, the Halawasaponi tribe, and the Koheri tribe, who have taken the time to sit down with me and document some of their traditional uses for a bunch of like over 100 native medicinal plants, including the elderberry. And those elder knowledge keepers are listed here on the side, and I want to personally thank them as well. They have shared so much information. They've been so giving, and this has just been a wonderful group of people to work with. And I just want to close by saying, please visit us at the ncnativeethnobotany.org. You'll find more information on additional plants. Not all of our plants, as I said, there's over 100 plants that we've worked on with our communities, but you will see a few that are on the Native American or the ncnativeethnobotany.org website. And please feel free to stay in touch with us there. If you have any questions, I will take them now. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tracie. And thank you all for the great questions that have come in. Won't delay any further. Tracie, have you noticed a problem with the invasive stiltgrass pushing out elderberry plants?
You know what? I can't say that I've worked at all with stiltgrass. I can't really answer that question. So I would love to be able to talk to the person who asked that question. And is it a problem? I don't know.
All right, thank you. And if anyone has any answers in the audience, feel free to type that in the chat, and hopefully we can share. Another participant has a community garden with a rain garden, and that captures rainwater from neighboring office building roofs and a small parking lot runoff. The elderberry plant is in the rain garden. Do you think it would be safe to harvest the plant for consumption?
That's a good question. And I'm overly cautious, but because there's a parking lot there and you're getting some runoff, I wouldn't do it personally. I will say that.
Thank you. Do you have any advice or suggestions for people interested in ethically foraging for elderberries or other native edible plants?
Oh, absolutely. Well, my first advice is knowing where you're harvesting. So if you're out in the wild, do you know whose property you're on? So making sure that you are in communication with the owner of that property, making sure that you have permission, making sure that you're not taking more than is necessary. Elderberry is one of these great plants that propagates really easy. So there may be a situation where if you have space in your own yard, you may be able to take some cuttings and transfer those cuttings into your own yard and grow your own elderberry for use. So I would suggest that going forward. So my first thought would be to take cuttings and move it into your own yard. But if not, just be mindful and of where you're harvesting from, and making sure that you have permission and that you're not over harvesting, and making sure that you give thanks, really like giving thanks to the plant.
Sounds wonderful. can the berries be frozen, either raw or dried?
Yes, you can. You can freeze them. You can dehydrate them. I have an air dryer, and I have dehydrated my elderberries, and they still taste delicious. So yes.
Awesome. This is in regards to making the syrup. Is bourbon necessary, or are other alcohols acceptable? And if so, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. You can use any alcohol. I like bourbon because it's a brown liquor, and it gives it I don't know, because it's winter time and because you're using cloves and ginger and those kind of like wintry warm flavors, bourbon pairs well with that. But surely you could use a vodka or something else.
And do you think there's a minimum alcohol content necessary to preserve the berries?
I would say 10%. So I would leave it at that.
Sounds good to me. There were a couple of questions that I tried to answer in the chat myself, but I'll let you answer these since we have time. Is there a test to tell the difference between water hemlock and elderberry?
Oh yeah, well you don't even need a test really. Like it's easy if you know what water hemlock looks like. It's easy to tell the difference between water hemlock and elderberry. So elderberry has a woodier stem. Water hemlock has an herb stem, like a greenish purple stem, and it has the same little bumps on it, but it's got like a purple hue to the stem. The flowers are a little bit different. It's kind of like hard to describe, but it has a very similar flower head, has very similar leaf structure, but the margins of the leaves are different. But the easiest way to identify the difference between the water hemlock and the elderberry is by looking at the stem. The elderberry, once you cut into it, has like a little pith that the water hemlock doesn't. And again, it's a woody stem, and the water hemlock isn't.
Thank you. You told me this in the chat, but could you describe what elderberries taste like?
For me, I think they kind of have a blueberry type taste. It's kind of a cross between a blueberry and a cranberry-ish. It's got like a cranberry-ish taste, but a little bit like a blueberry, yeah.
That sounds wonderful. My
Really
birthday's
delicious.
in August too, so I'm really looking forward to this year's bloom.
Yeah.
And this was on one of your slides, but could you just talk about the dosage for the syrup, using the syrup?
Let me go back and look at that really, because it's easier to.
Yeah, so that was showing 1 tablespoon a day as a preventative, or a tablespoon every 2 hours if you're trying to reduce the effects of a cold or flu.
Right. So I would kind of like stick with that. There's really, let me see. It really, like at the height of a cold or flu, those would be the times that you would want to be like staying on top of it, taking more. But if you're doing as a preventative, a couple, like a tablespoon or two, like once or twice a day is perfectly fine. And this is something that I do myself actually, like during the usually from November, January, February, those are the times that I use elderberry the most. Now, I also get my flu vaccine. So let me just put that out there. I always get my flu vaccine, but in addition to that, I do take elderberry syrup. I take about 2 tablespoons a day and I'm fine. But again, a tablespoon or so every couple hours when you're like in the having not really severe symptoms, but having symptoms of a cold or flu, that would be the best thing. If you want to prevent it from onset, then you would want to take it, a couple tablespoons, once a day or twice a day.
All right, well, thank you so much. That's all the questions we have at this point, but we still have a couple more minutes. So if anyone has any last minute questions to ask Dr. Tracie Locklear, we'd be happy to take those. When and where can we get the updated elderberry video? I
am in the process of working on that now. So I I snuck in some of that video that I snuck in where I was talking about best times to collect through April and June. That part of the video that showed like the beautiful flowers, that was like recently taken on a bicycle ride with me and my husband. So that was actually taken on Crabtree Trail. So if you guys like biking on Crabtree Trail, I took that there just like 2 weekends ago. So the flowers are out and they're beautiful right now. And as soon as they start putting off these beautiful berries, I will have an updated video for you, I promise.
Wonderful. Well, you can share that with us and we'll be sure to send that in an email to all the participants here today.
Happy to do so.
Awesome.
This is great. You all have had some great questions. You've answered some, and Dr. Locklear, you answered a lot of questions I had about elderberries, so thank you for that. And we're just so glad that we've had you here today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your time with us. What a beautiful topic.
Oh, thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed it.